It's 27 minutes past 7. Returning now to the uncertainty around the future of oil and gas exploration in this country, the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said yesterday that she is actively considering the issue, but her comment has sparked confusion as to whether she was referring to the annual block offer where explorers compete for the right to search for oil and gas, or the wider issue of the industry's future in New Zealand. She delayed a state meeting with Indonesian President Joko Widodo to receive a petition calling for an end to oil and gas exploration. And she joins us now in our Wellington studio to clarify some of her comments. Morning.
Good morning.
That was either quite a statement yesterday or a mixed message. Which was it?
Well, they are actually linked. So yes, while I was referring to the fact that we are actively considering the block offer situation, which comes up around this time of year loosely since and has done since 2012, they are linked. Because, of course, in considering block offers, you are considering the future of oil and gas exploration in New Zealand.
But there are many ways to get oil and gas exploration underway, right? And the block offer has driven very little interest in the last few years.
That's right, but basically that's the entry point. Without the block offer, you don't then have the issuing of permits, and then you therefore do not have drilling for oil and gas. So that's the entry point.
So there are no other ways to get permits for exploration other than the block offer?
Block offer is the way it happens, and has done since 2012.
All right. But that's not what the petition was calling for, really.
The petition was calling for an end to oil and gas.
An end.
Yeah.
And you were saying you're actively considering an end.
Yeah. What we're actively considering is the thing that decides whether or not we continue to drill for oil and gas. And that is the block offer process.
You don't take on board the comment from Simon Bridges, I think, and also from the petroleum industry itself, that if you stop exploring fossil fuel exploration, there would be global exploration would increase, and that's more damaging to climate, so you're making things worse.
Not from the initial evidence that I've seen. I mean, keeping in mind, these permits, when they're issued, are long run. So there are a number that, of course, already exist that have, upwards of 1 to 2 decades left on them. And what we're not saying is that we're going to cancel anything that's been done in the past. There we have contractual obligations. This is all about what we do in the future. And we have to keep in mind what reserves currently exist. And some of our fields, we're told, will be decommissioned by about 2046. So the decisions that we make now are long-run decisions, keeping in mind that there are already some permits out there already. There's some gas reserves already out there already. And we're really having to estimate the long-term impact of those existing resources against what we might do in the future.
So in your view, there is no confusion. You said that you were reassessing the block offer, and that means that you're reassessing oil and gas exploration.
The future, yeah, absolutely. Because
how long will it take for you to do that?
I've said yesterday that within a couple of months. I'm hoping a bit sooner than that. But because we are having to take into account, yes, we've already set a goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. We want to move to renewable energy by 2035. We already have existing gas fields in operation, and we need to look at how long they are running for. And the evidence around gas as a transition fuel. Of course, it has a lower environmental impact than the alternatives, but some question whether it's as a transition fuel. We have to take into account the impact on our local economies, particularly areas like Taranaki. But we also have to consider just generally where the world is moving as we confront climate change. These are complex issues, and we've always said we believe in a just transition. So that's what we're having to factor in as we make this decision.
Just clarify something for me. This is all linked with your statement that climate change is New Zealand's nuclear-free moment.
It is.
In the New Look TPP, is there anything to protect New Zealand from being sued by foreign corporations should we pursue a ban on, for example, drilling or oil exploration?
There's nothing that I've seen, there's no advice I've been provided that suggests that would be the case.
No protection?
That we would be sued for making a decision such as this. It's the prerogative of a government as to whether or not what it does with its block offers. Certainly would be up for challenge generally, I think, if we were cancelling existing permits and contracts.
All right. So when the critics say there's not enough built in to protect our climate change policies in the TPP, you would disagree
Well,
with
certainly on the question you've raised here around do we have is it our prerogative how we deal with our block offers, I would say yes.
Because, of course, you made a stand against the ISDS provision.
That's right.
And the criticism is that it has not been fixed and that companies can still take action against regulations.
I cannot see how any other nation could challenge us for a decision on what we chose to allow exploration permits to run over. That's a decision that we make on an annual basis based on our own evidence and advice. As I understand, that's never been challenged before, and there's nothing that I know of that within the TPP that would allow that to happen.
And other issues?
Other issues in terms of what we consider with the TPP generally, or with
the ISDS?
Oh well, look, we've always said ISDS we do not favour. We don't want those.
So which countries have agreed not to use ISDS?
We have side agreements with Australia, and that's of course where most of our foreign direct investment comes from. We have an agreement with Brunei. We have, from memory, 5 side agreements. I'd have to go back and pluck out the names of those individuals, but in total they equate to about, from memory, about 80% of the foreign direct investment from TPP nations.
All right. So nevertheless,
the carve-out's good.
There is still a window for people to... This is the criticism, and this is the... I mean, it comes down to...
We made this criticism, and this is why we gave the CPTPP 4.5 out of 5 in what we managed to negotiate. What I would contest is the point you're making around us being able to be challenged on this decision. I've seen no evidence to suggest that would be the case, and I don't believe that would be true at all.
How do you feel about the Greens giving their questions to the opposition?
Oh, look, it's 1 to 2 questions a week. Absolutely their prerogative.
42 during the rest of the year. Let's add it up properly.
I'm not going to be giving ours away, so that probably suggests how I feel about their use generally, but it's their prerogative, really.
But it seems weird, doesn't it?
Oh, as I say, we're hanging on to ours.
Does it seem weird?
They have said to me that they intend to hold on to them some of the time, so it's not a blanket decision that they've made.
No, supplementary as they might hang on to.
Yeah. Yes, and I think they have said that from time to time they may keep their primary questions, getting a bit house technical now. Look,
Which would you rather? Would you rather the Greens have given the questions to the national opposition as they have, or the Greens ask challenging questions themselves?
I think we're going to maintain the right to ask questions of ourselves. So obviously that means that I lean towards using them so that you can tell your own story. So why wouldn't the Greens do that? Why wouldn't the Greens not ask pasty questions, but ask questions that were meaningful of the government? They've stated that they have a long-term position on what's called patsy questions, which is this idea of asking a question.
It doesn't have to be patsy, right?
Well, that's what I would contest. But again, as I say, their call. We're going to keep on trucking on with ours. I used to, obviously back in the day, I used to help write the odd patsy question. It's all in the way that you craft it as to whether or not they feel genuine or not.
And obviously, you think that they're useful.
I do think they're useful. They're a tool to tell your own story, but the Greens have taken a different position.
And the National Party will take advantage of the extra questions to your disadvantage.
They've already got a set of questions. This only increases it by 1. I don't think that makes a material difference.
So what did you say to James Shaw when he told you about it?
Oh, just an interesting idea for you to decide. Not one that a decision I would take myself, but it was his decision.
The coalition... This is an indication of how tricky it's going to be, right? I mean, not only have you got that, but you've also got your Foreign Minister, Winston Peters, who's taking a fairly independent attitude towards Russia.
I would contest that. We obviously issued a joint statement on Friday supporting our partners, the UK, Germany, the US, France, and the statement that they had made, which very clearly said that there is no plausible alternative explanation for the use of the nerve agent in Salisbury other than Russia, and they have serious questions to answer. Since that time, after we put out that joint statement, I received a text message directly from Theresa May thanking us for our support, and we've been very clear on the implications this has for us between New Zealand and Russia on trade.
But shouldn't Winston Peters have dropped any mention of trade talks with Russia immediately?
Well, it's fair to say he was consistently asked about our position on it and responded to that, and he was the one, I think on this show actually, on Checkpoint, I think last Thursday, said, look, given this situation, it's too soon to say if or when those talks would resume. Those trade talks with Russia were suspended in 2014. We had not resumed trade talks towards a free trade agreement with Russia in the intervening period. And as I say, now it's too soon to say if or when that will happen.
The question is, shouldn't Winston Peters have dropped any mention of trade talks with Russia?
From when after Salisbury had happened? Well, after Salisbury happened, that is what we have done.
But he doubted that Russia was responsible for shooting down Malaysian Airlines Flight 17.
I should correct the record on that on his
Yes,
behalf.
please do.
Yeah. Look, that was a Q&A interview, and I went back and read the transcript because I had been asked about it. And he was very clear. There's no question of where that missile came from. That was a Russian missile, no question. But there is a joint international investigation underway as to who released the missile. That was the only point that he made, but he's never questioned the origin of it whatsoever.
I thought that means that he did. What you've just said means he questioned it, surely.
Oh, by pointing to the fact that there's an international investigation?
Yeah.
I don't think that's denying who's
Not yet
responsible.
proven. Not yet proven is the implication, right?
Pointing to an issue of fact. Look, the frustration I have here is that we are actually in line with our international partners here, both in the response on Salisbury, but on wider issues. We've never operated outside of the sanctions that are being imposed post-Crimea. We hadn't restarted FTA negotiations. We had raised a question of fairness, given that within the sanctions, the EU and the UK had continued to trade with Russia. But we've made a very clear statement. We've condemned what's happened in Salisbury. We have not and will not resume FTA discussions as a consequence at this time. And I don't think we could be more clear than that.
Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, appreciate your time this morning. It's 21 minutes to 8.
Coming up before 8 on Morning Report, we'll be looking forward to former American President Barack Obama's first visit to New Zealand. Also, the Ngaruawahia community